We're rolling. We're here.
Back at it again.
Back at it again.
Here we are.
Yep.
Accompanied by...
Well.
Well. Look who's back again.
I came back from Pluto. Sorry, y'all.
Sorry, y'all.
I got a little spun out there, as I do. I did that this morning, too. I'll break that down for you. Just give me a second. Let me just
Yeah. We're just going to settle in. I'm going to put in one of my bad habits. This is a good habit. Damn, it's so fucking dope when that bong's clean like that. It's just pretty.
Do you think we should put flavors in it? Like a little... We've done that before,
We've
like
made this
mint
mistake.
drops.
We've made this
It was
mistake.
just like a little too spicy.
It sounds like a good idea, but it's not. Even one peppermint drop on that ice fucking freeze your damn lungs.
Oh.
I'm not trying to take over. I mean, I'm just saying I will.
So I woke up at 6:30, as I usually do these days. Wide awake. Not bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, but wide awake. And go to the bathroom as you wake up, and the mirror annihilated me, as it does sometimes. And I just got stuck on a super obsessive negative thought pattern about the limitations of existing in a body that I couldn't seem to get out of. I want to blame partially the fact that I ate ice cream last night just to prove how much of a weak piece of shit I am, and that's all it takes for me to go all the way to fucking Hades. But I really do think, like, I had that thought this morning, just like a little bit of guilt, and that's all it took for me to drop all the way down into the densest plains. Yeah, I drove home, ended up just like scream crying on the floor until I got it all out. And the only reason I came back
Oh my God.
to do this with you guys really was you guys. And it's good to have reasons outside of yourself to do things. You know what I mean?
Man.
Some accountability.
Some accountability. Also just because it got me to force myself to get into this new perspective on what was happening today anyways, and to sit into the vulnerability of it instead of the resentment of it, which is really where I was ruminating, you know.
It's good we sleep late so we don't get the, like, fuck you attitude. And we wake up and you're like, I'm over it. I hated you guys this morning. Now I don't hate you
Yeah,
guys
I
so
felt
much.
out of love with myself. I felt back in love with myself. Fell in love with you guys. Fell back in love with you.
Holy shit.
It's a wild ride from your end.
It's a wild ride from my end. We were talking about doing this last night, and I was like, we'll see if that happens. We'll see. This is a...
Well, the reality of it, too, is that, like, all it took was me not feeling presentational. And it makes me seem really vain. And I don't want to spend time going into, like, the astrology of, like, why I feel obligated to value myself in a certain presentational way.
Why not? That's a dope topic.
Okay,
I love
maybe
it.
I will.
Because people might be able to relate with that.
Well, what I was going to say is the reason that I wanted to show up in my dirty, raw, dark self is because the reality is my non-presentational self is really what's more helpful to people probably than my presentational self anyways, right?
Yeah.
And that's the other thing that got me to come over today. Because nothing is ever how I want it to be is also the reality of, like, the idea of the presentational self, right? I'm always in editing mode. It's never good enough. So that loop never ends. So I did want to break the cycle today and come here and just be outright loud, you know, spooky.
We love you as you are.
Yeah.
You know, that's without a doubt.
We're learning that for sure. I'm like, damn, girl. God damn. I can't believe we're doing this right now. The old me would have been like, fuck that, off limits now. No more podcasting together. You know what I mean? I'm trying to just not be that way. I don't want to be that way.
Yeah, I mean, we exist in a culture that is highly Saturnian in its value systems, right? And so people like me that are very mercurial and that change their mind and are flaky and that like move on from things and that aren't necessarily steadfast, like I'm definitely like those are all like very demonized qualities in our society, not just in like jobs and working for corporate America, but like relationships. And it's understandable because people want to feel safe and everybody's run out of fear. And so I understand, like I understand my existence makes people uncomfortable on a lot of different levels. I'm totally clear on that.
I like dancing with it though, because like when you take a torch to things, I like being like, yeah, you go, girl, burn it all down, even if it's me. You know what I mean? Like I kind of I want you to do you, and I don't think it really matters what I think about it.
Yeah, same here. It's made me a better person, actually. because I care so much about you. And there was some fucking shit going down that I'm like, good, I just want to fucking show up there and like grab you and be like, come on, stop it. You know what I mean? And it's just, that doesn't play with you. It doesn't really work. You know, maybe it could. I don't know. But it's frustrating. So then you become a guru amongst many other things in my life.
Yeah. And I try and not be, I try and be very, I don't want to say like, I don't want to hide parts of myself, but I do try and be pretty private with most people I know, because it's just like people don't need to know. People don't need to hear about it. Mm-hmm. And I think most of the time I'm really good about feeling empowered by my own limitations, which is really like where we're all exalted, right? But there just is like some part of me also that has all of this resentment about limitations and what it is to exist in them. At the same time as knowing like that's all we're doing here is exploring what it is to have limitations. Yeah. And I got caught up in moments where like the idea of limitations themselves are so frustrating that I don't want to exist in them anymore. And it really like, it's like I think that I don't have anything to prove to myself anymore. And that's where I get resentful about just existing in general. It's like, I don't want to do this for other people. Like, I don't want to have to exist in a body for other people. And yet that's like basically the only thing that's kept me existing in a body for other people.
Yeah.
Because it's not enough. Because it doesn't feel like I have stories to prove to myself anymore. And it feels like I'm just non-consensually playing out these desires of a pattern that I'm supposed to have chosen, that sometimes feel like I didn't choose.
Yeah, that's part of this game.
It's part of this game. And my aversion to astrology most of my life, because I got into it young, like I knew about it, and I think I started like reading things here and there, and you guys know I pick stuff up quicker than I want to. But I'd always really push at arm's length, mainly because my chart specifically is like pretty doomsday.
Oh, really?
And especially to a young, I was like, fuck you.
Yeah.
Problems with relationships. Fuck you.
I'll show you whatever is going on here.
Yeah.
I'm good at everything.
And of course, like my natural contrarian, like prove to you nature, it made me feel like I need to prove that these things aren't true, that these limiting beliefs that you say about me aren't true.
We'll get into it.
Yeah, we'll get into it.
So we're not only trapped in our body, we're trapped in like our astrology. Like there's a lot.
Well, I think your body is your astrology, but yes.
And so that's what I think. Sometimes you read me something that's good about me and I get so excited, but I'm like, what about the people who don't have this good thing in their chart? You know what I mean?
Well, you can see when Mare reads someone's chart that doesn't have all the rainbows and butterflies like yours.
I mean, that's most of the game of an astrologer. Like the rest of my life is restraint.
Yep.
Not knowing is better most of the time.
You still haven't told me the bad things about myself, and you started like teasing it out because you're talking about someone else's astrology, and you were like, "Oh, and you have the same placement as them," and I was like, "Wait, what?"
Hitler.
Yeah, I mean, it's complicated because bad is obviously like subjective thing too, and there's always high frequency expressions of hard angles. As I've said, like hard charts can be really beautiful. It doesn't mean they're going to be easy. I would, argue against modern astrologers for that argument against hard angles. But they can be beautiful, and they're complex. And yeah, I mean, I've met people with similar charts that have totally different lives. The way that things expresses themselves can be really quite different. I mean, our moon placements, the way that that's expressed itself within our lives has been so different, because I've had quite one of the most literal expressions of moon in the 12th house, which your 12th house is the dissolution of ego, it's self-sabotage, it's imprisonment, it's institutions, and the fact that I was like literally locked up from my emotions. Your mood is your emotions by my mother, and your moon like represents your mother, is like the most poetic expression of that. I haven't quite figured out how it's like presenting in y'all's lives, other than the fact that like it brings an intense resonance between the three of us.
Yeah.
Because we have that overlap. Yeah, it's funny because you and I would seem like opposite ends of a spectrum, but like we share the same rising and moon sign. And so there's like a lot about the way that we can operate, which actually makes us very compatible, which has been kind of fun to explore.
Totally, because it's like a yin and yang thing with like some actual ground to stand on in different places. Yeah,
like you can express it differently, but as long as your values are the same, you know, wanting to, like, I also want to burn it all down. How
Totally.
I burn it all down looks a lot different than how you burn it all down. But, like, I do want to start afresh and not, like, any solid ground. I'm like, all right, let's get free of that because it is a limitation.
Totally.
Yeah, you've, in a way, reflected back to us like an extremer, more extreme version of how we are. That's probably why we're attracted to each other in a way. Like, we have, anywhere we've settled, we've built a cage around ourselves.
Yeah.
And then we're like, fuck this. And, you know, whatever it may be, the way we swim upstream in whatever we do, even this podcast, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's probably one of the pulls towards each other. There's a lot, and it's like, I don't know, our thinking mind can sometimes get fucking really, I think that's the definition of getting spun out. It's like the thinking mind is just running wild. It's a fucking tornado. Everything's getting pulled into this tornado. It's a wild ride, man.
Totally. Totally. Yeah. And I think I've always, coming from a very masculine family, had a lot of pride in my willpower and the idea that, like, you couldn't surpass a limitation. I didn't want to face that either. You know? I want to be the girl that tells you you're limitless. I want to say you can do whatever.
Yeah.
And I think the more that I age, the more I sit into my own limitations and the reality of everybody else's. And
it sucks.
Yeah, it's just like the game. And you have to learn to love exploring what limitations are to enjoy the game at all, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you're exploring it from all the angles. I think eventually you'll settle in on one where it's just like, this is good. All this fucking crazy, all this chaos is like, it is. I don't know. You've taught me that. You've taught me that.
Yeah. I remember one person reading my chart saying, no matter how hard you try, extreme circumstances will find you. And that was very validating for me as a young person. Because I did feel, I guess it's part of a victim story I had, like, Jesus Christ, like, a lot of people, like, that are close to me have some similar issues. It just doesn't seem like in the outside world it's gone all the way.
Yeah.
You know? And part of my journey is embracing being the fool, is embracing being the person that makes mistakes and does the thing. And so I continually try and not make decisions out of fear and know that, like, I am going to disappoint people and whatever, but that's, like, also part of my role. And that's been coming through a more holistic understanding that, like, good and bad is a subjective thing. And that a lot of times when people have been abrasive in my life, it's been really good.
Right.
Right. And that, like, having a, like, ooey gooey cushy influence on everybody's life is, like, not always the best thing.
Leave that for the Casses of the world.
Leave that for the Casses of the world, because because it's also just misery business trying to do it, because it's not how I'm patterned. You know, it's like I'm trying to be somebody that I'm not, and it makes me miserable because it feels like I'm failing.
Yeah.
And that's really, like, why we get upset anyways, and why it almost proves that there's a pattern that you come home to in general, is because the fracturedness of your own self is what is causing you pain.
Mm-hmm.
And if there wasn't a singular self or a feeling that you were coming back to, there wouldn't be that feeling of upsetness or, like, disconnectedness, which I guess can be a feeling of disconnectedness to the things outside of you, but most of the time is obviously stemming from just, like, disconnected parts of you that you feel like can't line up. And I don't know, maybe the moon in the 12th house stuff too is something with our love of psychedelics and always, like, dissolving our ego and understanding what it is.
Because we all have that. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I wonder that.
So at this point, has this relationship been a net positive?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. I think we're having, like, a lot of fun, and that's why it's fun to even get on here, because you're, like, obviously such a big part of our life. So, like, for us to share this space is, like, allows us to be more honest with who we are and what we're up to, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And I wanted to get on here and blame my Saturn return for, you know, the horrific shame that is the ruins of my footsteps.
We love seeing someone.
If I could just obfuscate the blame to the stars, that'd be great.
No, I mean, I like that better than any fucking other bullshit. That makes sense to me. We love seeing a motherfucker through their Saturn return. We were different people. You wouldn't have known me, you know. We wouldn't have known each other when I was in that stage of my life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So do we have multiple Saturn returns? Because We do. So you have one around like 30 and then 60. Interesting.
Y'all have one around 90.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because we're going
long
the
life club.
Long haul.
Yeah. That's why we can just slow it down. It's like, you know, like one of everyone always says life is short, and it's like this, like, yeah, get into it. You know, Cass, I love when Cass always says, she's like, life is long, and it makes me treat people better, because it's like it's become part of my practice of even being present. And I heard Ram Dass talking about this. He said it so well, something I've been thinking for so long. It's like, he didn't really put it like this, but the way I was thinking of it is, if time's an illusion and I'm being present with our whole saga. You know, everything that happened before, everything that's going to happen. It actually helps me be a fucking more kind-hearted motherfucker in the moment.
Yeah, you still want to get that last word in while you have the chance. You're like, I don't even know if I'll talk to them again, and I just gotta fucking get it.
Yeah, that's when I'm at my worst.
Or your best, because it's like it's your own torch. We all have our own ways of torching things.
When I'm going off, when I'm really on one, it doesn't feel like me. Yeah, that sounds like a cop out, but you know, this feels like me. That feels like some other thing overtook me and is running crazy. And, you know, the sooner someone points that out to me, the better, you know, like, who the fuck is this dude?
Well, it's like what Mare was talking about. It's like these moments of disconnection isn't you.
Yeah.
You're actually whole, you're complete, you're connected. So when you get in the thinking mind that thinks you're separate, this individual thing that's as simple as like, I ate too much ice cream last night, or whatever judgment you're casting upon it, it's like, it's a dark cloud of thought, but you are much more of an expansive person.
Yeah.
So it's like it's very fun to ride the waves together and watch other people ride the waves and allow them to watch you ride the waves and still show up and love you for it.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, it's a very powerful form of, I think, relating and forgiving, and it's a practice. Like, that's why relationship is like one of, I think it's a karma, it's a yoga, you know, how we relate to each other and how we show up and how we forgive and how we understand and the compassion that we like extend to one another through it all.
Right. And my Saturn return, of course, is in the 7th house of relationships. Which is so, like, yeah, if you look at my chart, like, the first time I have a T-square, first of all, which is like one of the hardest things you could possibly have in a chart. And you look at it, and like the greatest malefic of my chart, because I'm bored at night, is Saturn, and he's in my 7th house relationships, which is basically like, it's like the hardest house to deal with a malefic in. And then because I'm bored at night, my moon is my sun, and my moon is in the house of self-dissolution. So it's been great and easy, and I love it. I want to talk about Venus in the 1st house a little bit, just because I think it's interesting that awareness doesn't really change desire and limitation. And that, okay, so Venus in the 1st house, Venus in my body, beauty wants to express itself, love wants to express itself through my body. That's kind of been a narrative through dance, through singing. Before I fucked up my face, really valuing how I looked, right? And then when I fucked up my face, having to like rewire what it was to express beauty to people and have it kind of be more disassociated from me and my body. Mm-hmm. And I've been aware that that's a desire of mine for a long time, because like consciously, I feel like if you ask me performing, I'm like, performing is such a silly thing. I don't even know why I want to do it. But knowing about the desire and knowing why I have the reason for the desire definitely doesn't change any of the like fire under it. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I mean? It's like still a thing that's demanding to like be expressed, whether I want to face it or not. You know, I can run as much as I can, but the more I run, the more fractured I become and the more upset I become. And when I get into those, like I wake up and my face hurts and I'm like, fuck. And then I feel like I can't overcome the limitation, because it feels like what life is asking me and how life is asking me to be valued by other people, I fucked up. And then I'm like totally trapped in this, like, why am I still in this body? Mm-hmm. Like I ran out the story. I can't do the story that you're asking me to do. And that's the one that's just like the escape hatch for me from,
that's heavy,
from this because I'm grounded, just not here.
But I mean, I can't believe that you can't see past that story, that like you
crazy,
are
right?
Beautiful, and that
I don't think you fucked up your face. I think somehow you made it better or something made it better.
Yeah. I don't know what it is. Like, it was this smile this morning. Like I got up and I like tried to smile, and there's a stiffness when I wake up in the morning and like couldn't quite, it's so silly. It's so small, and it seems so vain. But at the same time, like, no matter how aware of it I am, it doesn't really change the kind of fuel that's underneath it.
I mean,
and
but it's so difficult. You did have, like, you got in a really bad car accident, and you fucking changed the way you look to yourself. Because, like, we only know you since it, so I'm just like, the idea that you were more beautiful just seems ridiculous to me.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, you're perfect, but then, like, obviously you've lived a life where you're like, well, the symmetry I had before, like, you know what I mean? But people, as they meet you, don't see that or think about that.
Yeah, there's no, like, relativity to it or whatever. So yeah, and then I think, this is why having any sort of awareness or look at your chart is helpful, is because when you have difficult things that you can't seem to escape, as far as like ruminations, even if you can't escape the pain of them, you can channel it. Right. And that's like the awareness of like, okay, this thing demands to be expressed. And I was talking to a good friend of ours about this too. Like, when you have transits in your chart, like, there is no escape hatch from the transit that's happening. Yeah. It's going to happen, but there is a infinite number of ways that it can be expressed.
What's an example?
Well, let's talk about Uranus in the 6th house, because that's what I was talking about to the friend that we have going through that transit. And Uranus in the 6th house, Uranus is rebellion. He's electricity. He rules your nervous system. He wants things to change more than anything, and so he makes them change, often in a chaotic manner. I have that natally in my 6th house of everyday. Cass has that natally in her 6th house of everyday. A lot of Leo risings in our generation have that in their 6th house of everyday. And that usually, with somebody natally, means they have a hard time with routine, yada yada. But depending on the other dignities in the chart and the house placements, people can have a difficult time with these transits. But they can be a high frequency or a low frequency, and I think even that is kind of a judgment in itself. But it could maybe spring up different body ailments or issues in people in a kind of darker, heavier way if that energy isn't being channeled. But if it is, it could cause the opposite. It could be healing. It could be the remission that you've been waiting for. It could be all of this new inspiration in this area if you're really able to get there, as far as not being overreactive to the new forces that are coming upon you. So yeah, it's kind of about honoring the shape of space-time that you're in. And again, and it's such a feminine art form in that, because it's innately receiving, it's listening. It's saying, I can't be bigger than that of which I am in,
Yeah.
But I can be a part of it intentionally in the best way that I can. Yeah.
It's funny because you tell us all these things, like, you've given us a roadmap to you, which is pretty cool, because we've talked about this concept of, like, giving your partner
a fucking clue,
a fucking user's manual to, like, what you like, what gets you off, what turns you off, what works for you, what doesn't work for you. And, like, if you listen when people talk about their astrology, you can kind of, like, hear these things. And that's where, like, I think for me, it allowed me to, like, let go, because all we can do is, like, trust each other, but at this end, like, I can keep the bigger perspective of, like, yo, she's, going through her Saturn return in the 7th house of relationships, and if she thinks it's not with us, like, I mean, what am I gonna do to convince you otherwise? But I kind of know it is. So.
Yeah, definitely.
Can you know too much though?
Well, I've had multiple moments of, I know too much. I know way too much.
And can you sidestep something Like, can you be like, all right, this is saying that I'm going to...
Well, I think what she's saying is the way to sidestep things is to not have an overreactiveness to whatever's coming your way.
Well, and to honor it and... use that energy, like, not to be in denial that it's existing, and to know that there's good and bad. I don't know why I'm using those very limited small words, but there's just a multitude of expressions for everything, so it's like you're limitless in the limitation as well. And that's the maze out,
Yeah, and there's no, like, concrete truth of how something is going to express itself.
No.
You can't be like, you are going to self-sabotage in this way.
Exactly.
Like you don't know what's going to change, and how even having the information that you self-sabotage could maybe allow you to sidestep some of the ways that
Well, that's the portal to self-forgiveness. It's like, oh, okay, this is a pattern playing out. I know, and you know about that pattern, so it probably helps you surf those waves a little easier.
Totally. And there's more tenser feelings and scenarios of that pattern. And there's also like really expansive, shapes of that pattern. And I guess I'm just, with my Saturn return really coming in, I guess Saturn is about limitations as well, coming into my own limitations and trying to figure out how to feel empowered by them,
Yeah. So it's completely inappropriate when I reflect back to you what I think limitations that you're bringing to the table are.
Ooh.
Well, because it's like, you and I have gotten into it a couple times, and it's like, I'm not proud of the things I say or anything like that. But then you sometimes reflect back to me like, yo, kind of like, thanks, I needed that a little bit. And I'm like, what the fuck? Like, this is my worst kind of behavior.
Well, it's your karma to like cast judgment on what Mare's going through.
Yeah.
It's her karma how she receives what judgments you cast on her. So like
Yeah.
if she can hear what you say, appreciate it and reflect on it and not accept it as her truth, or see what hits her and what hits in the places that it's supposed to hit. But it's not necessarily that, like, right? I don't know.
Yeah. That's amazing. Yeah.
Because that's how I think about it, is like everyone's perfect, especially since it's all kind of like predetermined in a lot of ways. And if you can't get hip to that, the things that you hate about your mom or your dad or whatever it is, like that's their path.
Yeah.
They're
purpose.
on a very particular karmic path and purpose that puts them in a position where they relate to people and treat people a certain way, and it's for your growth in some way that they're going to relate to you in that way. And if you can kind of just like step into that way of being, you can roll with it in a more fun way, probably.
Yeah. Embracing contrast, because contrast is really what helps us grow and what helps us expand. And it's the same thing when I'm talking about like doomsday charts. Like everybody that I meet that has more angles and more contrast in their life is more interesting because they have more information.
Yeah.
They have more relativity, and more relativity means a more holistic picture, and a more holistic picture is always a more loving picture.
Right. It's changed my life. Like, I don't know. I feel like I've probably said this a bunch before, but like accepting even, and you've allowed me to see Sean in a way that like has, and myself and yourself in a way that's like allowed me to appreciate the things that I maybe don't like appreciate the sharp tongue or the reactivity or the burning of it down or, and be like, oh, I mean, like I could try to change this, but that is such a fool's errand.
Well, yeah. And understanding too, like if everybody was like, trying to do the right thing and not step out of the bounds, like nothing would get done. And I don't mean to seem like a capitalistic, like in a productive manner, but seriously, like
energy
in a productive, like
moved.
ethereal, metaphysical manner, like consciousness wouldn't expand. We need the people that are doing the wrong thing and that are always like stepping out of the bounds. And I've noticed this recently too. Especially after going through my progress chart and finding out all of the Libra energy, I'm such a contrarian just naturally. Like I'm listening to the radio, I'm listening to anything, and the innate reactivity in my head is always to do the other. And I think it is just an energy that's asking to be like, but see both sides of it. Mm-hmm. I used to hate it about myself, and I'm like, oh, it's just like it's trying to get me to not pinhole into an idea, because it does. I agree with most of the people, and I'm like, no, what and I'll say the other thing, but it's like.
It's funny. I think of Gail. She's done this thing where she's, someone has had this story and she's like, I don't consent to your story about me. And I think
or about yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think, and it reminds me, because like you and I can get in a dance where I'm like playing the role of your mother or authoritarian, because I'm like the person who like knows what's going on and I'm going to tell you what's going on.
You're
and
grounded. You're the grounded one in the group. Like you're the earth energy in the group. So like.
Yeah, so sometimes I'm like, okay, we have these masks or whatever the fuck it is, and you just get like flooded and overwhelmed because of what you've been through.
Yeah.
And I just have to be like, I have to dance with that and be like mindful of you and what triggers you, but also realize like, just because you see me as an authoritarian doesn't actually mean that I am an authoritarian.
Right.
And that
or that you need to change it, or that like you're not supposed to exist, because the reality is like you kind of are, but you are supposed to exist that way.
Yeah.
Just like I'm kind of like the opposite.
Yeah, I'm supposed to
for
tell
no
people.
reason. Like I'm, I like to do what people tell me not to do.
Yeah.
Like,
and I'm.
So does she.
Wait, what?
That's the crazy thing.
Yeah.
You are a wild woman.
She's got Uranus in the 6th house. She's got some of me in her.
When you're both acting wild, holy shit.
He's like, I'm over this feminine chaos.
Yeah. And I'm like, come on.
Yeah, God bless you. Well, God bless me. I mean, come on. You guys, I don't know what your overlap is, but it's wild. It's in
Fire and fire. Leo.
Leo, yeah.
Well, yeah. And I think that kind of speaks to, like, when you take out your flamethrower and start burning down your life, and like you're sparing us, kind of like you're burning everything around us, but I'm getting a little like, you're
getting a little tinge.
And I'm like, should I get my flamethrower? And then before I know it, I have mine, and I'm like, oh, you think yours fucking works? I'll fucking make you never want to talk to me again. Yeah.
Is that not funny? I'm laughing.
See, and mine isn't even like you guys are painting me different than I am. I know. It's not fair because my flamethrower is internal.
No, I know.
I just leave.
When you remind me of that,
that's my worst. I fly away sometimes. I have fucking wings on my heels.
Yeah.
I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah. When you remind me of that, it makes me feel a lot better. You know, you're like, yo.
When have I said anything mean to you about yourself?
Whatever you think
Never.
I'm putting you guys through, it ain't you guys. You know what I mean? I'm beating myself up. I'm not even thinking about that kind of stuff. That actually makes me feel a lot better. And also, honestly, knowing how much we love each other, helps me just stay a little bit more grounded in any given thing. Whatever storm is coming, it's
also,
fine.
you can't take it for granted. If Mare has little wings on her booties, she might fly away, and so you might as well appreciate her while she's here.
That's become the new practice. I can't believe you're hanging out with us every time. I'm like, wow, cool. Bonus time. Bonus level.
Yeah, I can be flighty.
Well, that's what killed me. When you took off, I felt like, I'm like, do you feel like you beat the game? Because, like, man, did we leave on a high. Holy shit, we were having the fucking like best nights of our life. We had this show going, all this stuff, and then I was just like, yo, Mare's gone, what the fuck? Made me, of course, self-conscious, but when you remind me about who you are and everything, I can roll with it. I want to roll with it.
Yeah.
I love you guys. I have so much fun. I mean, like, I'm always laughing. Like, I laugh so hard when we're hanging out. We have, like, similar sensibilities. We have completely different paths to get there, completely different speeds at which we operate often. But somehow there's this magic space where we can recognize each other and recognize and appreciate the reflection. And also just, when I met you, I was like, oh, fuck, we're on the level together,
Yeah.
And that's, like...
That's hard to come by.
It is kind of hard to come by, where you can, in similar sensibilities and taking this thing seriously or not so seriously is like when you meet someone where you can kind of roll on a similar wave, like don't take that for granted.
Yeah. No, I like the rumination on relationships and what it is to be responsible. That's the other annoying idea that's been going on in my head a bunch, and what it is to be responsible in different realms and how people have different senses of responsibilities. And I just got really freaked out. And I think being alone for as long as I've been alone, it's just a weird fear body response that feels like a control thing when I feel out of control, when my story feels out of control.
Yeah.
Because the one thing I've always been able to do is leave, in spite of people trying to get me not to.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't love it. But at the same time, too, like, we're so connected. I'm not even that far away when I go, I, like, still feel you guys in my apartment. I'm like, it's the age of Aquarius, y'all. Like, space is good sometimes.
You can't escape us.
I can't.
Yeah.
The further you go, the closer we get somehow.
Literally. Time doesn't exist anymore. Space doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
We're just connected. And I'm like, great. Okay.
Yeah. Definitely.
We're infiltrating the dream space.
Yeah.
No, that's, and that's like, my panic moment is like, okay, you're leaving and like, I'm going to give you space to do that. You should definitely do that. But like, do you want me to, like, is this a test? Like, should I, like, I don't know. Like, now I know. now I know a little bit better how to behave if that's going down. But like in the first time it's going down, I'm like, do I stop you right now? Or like, could I stop you? Should I? Like, should I not? Like, I don't know how serious this is. I don't know how serious we're gonna be about this. But I felt the same thing. Like, you took off, and I'm like, she's still here. So it's like fucking ridiculous.
Or you're still here, but the fun parts are gone.
Yeah.
Can't touch your soft body and stuff.
Yeah.
They were really good at being my friend for a week.
I like that acknowledgement.
A little credit where credit's due.
Yeah, a little credit.
Yes, she only touched my under boob like once.
We're good friends. That's the kind of friend I wanted to be. I could see if we could do it.
You guys were really good friends, for sure. I was more of a friend during that time,
The rules are a little looser for me. I present innocent so I can get away with more.
You definitely do. Like, I couldn't have gotten away with that. Mare would have run out of here so fast. It's like, oh, we're going to hang out as friends now, and I'm just going to fucking feel you up. Like, it's fucking 8th grade.
Her up. I just grazed her underboob. Oh, man. Well, because I was like, I know I feel like human touch is important. And I was like, as a friend,
yeah,
I can offer you some healing, loving touches. In my mind, it was generous.
I'm like, Cass, you're out of control. The funniest is when we tried to do a daime ceremony as friends, and we're pulling cards the whole time. And it's just the devil. And I'm like, I don't know, is that Mare? I don't know what this means. Like, is Mare the devil or something? And like, yeah, little did I know. It was more a reflection of what was going through your head and everything.
Lord of the gates of matter.
Yeah.
Bound to the fleshly realm.
Yeah.
Those were those days for sure.
Yeah.
That was hard.
Yeah.
We tried.
Yeah, we tried.
It was a valiant effort.
Yeah.
Yeah, we tried to be friends. It was like cool.
I was like, I'm in this for the long
hated it
haul.
every second.
Yeah.
No, I didn't. I was cool. I was rolling
cool.
with
We all
it.
did.
I tried my best.
Yeah.
No, I'm the one that goes crazy. I'm the one that loses my mind. I'm like, we're still going to send each other songs? Like, this is fucking, we're playing with fire right now. Like.
Yeah, there is something like when you break up, you should probably like break up. But
well, I've found out that this is a thing now, that like people break up and their shared playlists, they play games through it. We found out through someone else that this is a thing. It doesn't have a name yet or anything, but that's like one of the things. It's like, oh, we don't text anymore. We have each other blocked on social media, but we play this game on this playlist, And yeah.
Well, that's kind of what we were doing. And I loved when you came over after and Sean's like playing every like punk rock heartbreak song.
Epic.
I was just like, Mary,
grapes.
Yeah.
Well, I was like, okay.
You leave such a bad taste.
If
Sour grapes.
if I'm not trying to romance this girl anymore, I'm gonna start picking some stuff out of this punk bin, which I never touched when we were hanging out romantically. Well, but I think it opened up new portals somehow.
That's the thing is like you're a raw song sometimes, and the fact that you're vulnerable and share that's the pathway to intimacy. So like whether you like it or not, we're building intimacy with someone. You know what I mean? Like when you play it all nice and you're like, okay, let's be friends, and like not tell you how like you ripped the heart out of my chest and all this stuff, then it's you're showing them when you fool them, you're fooling yourself, because then they don't get to access the realest version of you, and then you like are operating in this plane of egos, and I don't know. Seems like
those masks thicken with time, and like that's the stuff like that I was scared we were gonna get beyond the point of no return. I'm like, man, we like I said to you one of the times we were hanging out, I'm like, it's so weird, we used to know each other so well like 2 weeks ago, and now I'm like hi. And it's not even sex, it's just like the
but it kind of is.
Yeah. Well, you just had to realize that too. You're like, that's how we relate. It's just like, I guess that's how we relate. That's one of the things we do. And that's fine.
I don't think you have to be apologetic.
I just had to realize that that's what I came this world to do, because my North Node is in the house of sex.
Oh.
Oh.
And I have to embrace my destiny.
Yeah. You came here to take it.
Mm-hmm.
So take it. Take it easy, but take it.
Yes, Earl Bailey in the house.
Yeah.
8th house of death.
Really?
Which is interesting because it's the other house actually affiliated with sex too. Just I feel like it's a little bit more of like the more complex, archetypal, darker stuff with sex because it's Scorpio, the house of Scorpio.
Yeah.
And really it brings in sex because it's talking about other people's resources and debt. And obviously when you're having sex with somebody, there's a lot of conversations about other people's resources going on. Just in a different way than the 5th house. The 5th house really is the house of children and creativity and also like sex and play. It's Leo. It's a naturally Leo run house. So the things that Leo operates under. And then the 7th house is more about relations, but less about like the sex part. But yeah, people with the North Node, if you're somebody with a North Node in your 8th house, long life ahead of you. Depending on the dignities, but usually. And usually somebody that's quite obsessed with death and transfiguration, what it is to transform, has it's scorpionic energy. So the karmic energy is sort of thrusting you towards trying to answer those deeper questions of the psyche.
So having the North Node in death doesn't mean you'll die sooner. It means you'll have to live longer and experience more deaths while you live.
Yes.
Interesting, because I've experienced a lot of deaths in my life that are like more personal in nature, but not physical in nature.
Yeah, a lot. Cass really gets
I like
this,
it though.
You know.
You too, dude.
Yeah, me too. I don't get that psychedelic, like I just died 1,000 deaths. Cass taps into that all the time.
Yeah.
I don't get that on psychedelics. It's usually just like a pretty fucking good time. But when I think about it, it is a death.
Yeah, you do your own sojourn to the underworld. You have your own Persephone myth playing out, Cass, in your mental scape of anxieties.
Yeah. I guess it's important I guess there's balance in everything. Like everyone is going to have their dark areas,
Definitely.
The stuff that's more difficult for them, the stuff that's more triggering, the times of their life that are more triggering. Like I think that there are different people who may be in a period of uncertainty, especially around everything that's gone on in the pandemic, or
everyone
probably have a younger audience. It's like, okay, like a lot of uncertainty, a lot of still navigating the relationships they have with their parents, which we all may be doing for the rest of our lives. But, you know, everyone goes through periods where it's like, yo, you can't get on with your parents no matter how hard you try. You know, there's like a bullheadedness of conflict, you know, and sometimes people think it happens when you're a teenager, but it doesn't, not necessarily. It happens when you maybe step outside of who they want you to be.
Right.
And maybe they're also going through their own period of figuring out who they want to be.
Right.
And it may not line up with the relationship that you think that you're supposed to have in the context of the American nuclear family.
Right.
And then it's like, how do you then make the most important compassion to expand is to like, I guess those people, because those are the hardest people to because they're such an extension of your identity that it's hard to extend compassion to those who represent you in a way and who you are, because that's a version of forgiving yourself. And it's hard to forgive yourself because you want to change yourself, and you feel like if you forgive yourself, then you're cutting yourself off from changing yourself.
Totally.
And you don't want to like accept the story as it is. You want to dance with the story and have free will, you know? And then it's like this conversation about, all right, how much free will, like, do you need to tell Mare how it is so that she can step into her power? Is that part of your thing? Or is she going to step into her power whether or not you say something to her or not? And then how does that value you? Do you feel better after you say something and you feel like, okay, I exercised this and now she knows? Or do you feel worse and like, oh, fuck, now I have to live in regret and remorse? That's a conversation that like obviously only you can answer, and it's probably a mix of both. But those are like definitely the kind of dances that we're all doing, right?
Yeah. I mean, it makes me feel better to hear myself say something is that like, hey, if this is on, I'm trying to, like, it feels it feels like this righteous thing. Like I need to do this because it's like, if this is on,
righteous,
like,
I love that word for you. Sorry, continue. Going.
Yeah, but like this is how you work with a motherfucker like me. Like, you know, you give me the astrological roadmap.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to give you the Google map of my life. Like, yo.
Yeah. Well, you are a night baby. You have a Sagittarius moon, and Sagittarius rules his 9th house of spiritual righteousness. And my North Node is in Sagittarius, and I find that quality will come up in me as well sometimes. Right. And it's a relatable quality when it comes up in you, actually, when you like, it's something that like I hear and I like, even when I'm mad at you.
No, I
know.
At me, that's what's dangerous.
Yeah, you like stay on the phone. I'm like, dude, Mare, I hang up with him on him when he sounds like this.
I was like, wow, that was like 2 hours and 10 minutes till she hung up on me. That's pretty good. That's the fucking longest anyone stayed on this bull. World record. I get 15-second phone calls with Cass.
I'm like, I'll answer when your tone changes.
Yeah, and she's sitting just like outside of. She's like up on the roof or in the stairwell or something. I'm like, baby, come back to me. Once I finally
Not
get
exactly.
it, once I get there is when you'll listen to me.
Not exactly.
And you know what else?
Don't even think about coming back.
Yeah, literally. Lose my number.
Lose my fucking number. For real. Delete, block me.
You keep this going and there may not be coming back anymore.
Fuck around and find out.
Fuck around and find out. Oh, he tried to get me to apologize for something the other day, and I was like, yeah, I don't think so.
I don't even remember that, but it was probably one of many things. Because normally you're just like, yeah, whatever.
No, I don't want to be the narrative but the thing is, it's so fun to pick on Sean because you do have a sharp tongue a little, you know what I mean? You're very expressive, but it's actually what is so beautiful and powerful about you is your ability to deduce information and express it. And what is happening in your mind when you're scared, not everyone else is going to want to hear necessarily, but but it's like such a beautiful thing. And like, I think for women like Mare and I who can like hold that energy and understand on a larger level what's happening, like we can be like, oh, he's so mean, but it's like, it's not. Like, you're being very vulnerable with us by sharing how you see the world and how you see us, and we're strong enough in ourselves to like see that and be like, okay,
I'll prove you wrong.
Yeah, I'll prove you wrong. Like, all right, challenge accepted.
Yeah, literally. You want to play?
Yeah. No. That's what's dangerous. When I start getting that reflection, not just someone being like, sayonara for good. Like when I start getting like, oh, you're going to play around. Oh, shit. Okay, I'm going to watch what I say. I want to be better. I really do,
No, you're good. It's fine. You're perfect. It's like, and that's what's kind of been funny about being in this relationship is that like, we keep having these like blowout moments, the three of us, and we come back stronger and laughing about it. And that's like a quality that I've had in the relationship with Sean for so long that I'm like, well, that is like, at least for me,
that takes fucking time to get to. That takes like
usually takes time to get to, but it's the necessity for a longer term way of relating with each other.
Yeah.
No matter is like, okay, can we bounce back? Can we forgive?
Right.
Can we not like hold all the trauma of everything that we unleashed on each other and then punish each other? Because it's like, that's not fun.
Right.
We have a list of wrongs that we're gonna like take out on each other at certain moments. Like, no, like it's not like that. Like we want to just show up and have fun and accept the infinite nature of Sean and accept the infinite nature of Mare and not pigeonhole each other, because we ourselves don't want to be pigeonholed into like, oh, well, that's just how Cass is going to relate. And like, this is what's annoying about you. It's like, no more limiting beliefs.
Right, exactly. And it's like, how do you, like, back to the conversation on limitations, like knowing that a certain angle or a certain shape is limitless in its expression, right? And that Sean's sharp tongue is also his clear eye.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's also what makes him great at the things, you just really don't get one without the other,
Yeah.
It's the same thing, with anything you could probably say negative about,
all your brightness. Yeah. Like your brightness is like, whoa. But then if you ride it out, there's imbalance to that somewhere.
Yeah, sometimes.
Which is just as beautiful.
Yeah.
That's the thing. I think that's what we're trying to say.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So, and it'll come out in different ways, because really, like, when Sean's at his best, that frequency does come out. It just looks totally different,
Right.
It's still there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's still that thing. It's still that Mars on the tip of your tongue,
Yeah, I just need to channel it. I just need to focus it a little bit better. Like that's why, like Cass is saying, it could so easily become the butt of jokes, because it's so the elephant in the room when it's happening. Right. It's just like, oh, Sean's on one right now. Yeah. Like there, nothing else could fucking penetrate this energy.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like my mom, and it sucks because this is like the qualities about my mom that I don't like. I love her so much, and just like she's just such a saint in so many ways. But the stuff I don't like about her is that shit. Is just like whoa. Like I was scared of my mom. I don't like, why would I? And that's the shit I didn't like, is that like I was scared of her waitresses were scared of her.
Right.
You know, like my dad was scared of her.
Right.
We were just like, I don't want to be like that. That's a defense mechanism.
Right.
And it's what I grew up around, like just dysfunction, dysfunction. So I don't know. It's a miracle that I'm able to stay in relationships for a long time and like communicate, sometimes stay friends with people after we break up. You know what I mean? Like it's kind of a miracle considering the level of communication that I came from and still is in that house. It still is like that.
Well, again, it's like your clear eye. It's like your ability to be in really heavily contrasting situations and be able to see the other side where it could be. Yeah. You know, you're able to see a maze of limitation and then see that there was an exit and be like, why aren't people walking out? Yeah. You know, where a lot of people just get caught up in this maze.
And that's your goal when you're telling someone, you know, it's painful to get your limitations like pointed out to you or the ways that you're not showing up right. Totally. Like honestly, I can't get that mad at you because while you're being mean to me, I'm like, okay, well that's true, but I just don't want you to say it so many times. I'm like, I heard you the first time.
Yeah, totally.
It's weird because it's almost to me like the outward expression of my compassion expanding, because I think of the times in my life when I've been the meanest, like it's like when my dad's fucked up and I'm like the only one that's really like picking up on that narrative, like he's really fucked up right now. He's fucking self-medicating. It's making everything here chaos. No one's confronting him. I will come out with the sharpest knives you've ever seen. But once it's a family issue and other people might be treating him like that, I'm his biggest advocate. I'm like, stop. This man needs our help. He needs our love. You know what I mean? I'm like, yo, and like if anyone else came at you with the same shit that I might have, I would be like, fuck you. I'm gonna cut your head off. Same thing with
like when we've gotten in a fight, Sean's like, you're on one. You gotta check
I'm
yourself.
Like, stop. Don't go so hard on her. Like, you know what I mean?
Which is like happened once.
Yeah. Cass is like, me go hard on her?
I'm like, what are you even talking about?
Yeah, limitations and how to not be limited by them.
I mean, and I think there's also something to also realize, like, yeah, you can decide whether you want to consent to how someone else behaves and how they express maybe their things, and you get to decide, like, am I in a healthy relationship with them? Like, we can traverse the darkest waters and the brightest seas, and I'm just like, there's no doubt to me, like, there's love there. When you know it, when you're in a bubble of love, when you love someone, like, what are you going to do? Are you going to just, like, overthink your life and be like, well, this way that they treat me at this time between this time of the month? It's like, no, it's like we prioritize love. We care about love. Love is the reason we're here. When you get that special feeling with someone, you don't just throw it away because your feelings got hurt. At least someone like me doesn't. Totally. I like it because I feel like if I was with someone who didn't tell me how it is sometimes, I would be so bored out of my fucking mind.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, you know, it's a joke too, because as I'm doing it, like, to me, I'm like, okay, all the limitations on this being the best thing ever are Mare right now.
Yeah.
And here's the things. And as I'm saying them, I'm like, those are my limitations. Her acting a certain way in a certain situation, that I'm just expressing, like, I'm hitting a wall. It's not anything you're doing. I'm like, I need to transcend that. I need to not fucking buy into that illusion that, like, you're doing something that's preventing me from fully flourishing in a moment, or us fully coming off some way. Like, who gives a fuck? We are who we are so clearly. Right. You know? Right. So, I mean, I do get it. I do learn, you know.
Well, that's where all you can meet someone with is spacious awareness.
Right.
And see them compassionately and let them, like, your karma is how you react. Like, I'm embarrassed how I react. Like, I fucking break things. Break stuff.
She does. And then I get triggered when I see that broken thing, like, 3 days later. Right. I just think back to that moment where I'm like, you couldn't control yourself. I pushed you to the edge and you just couldn't.
Feels good.
Yeah, it does. I've never done it.
Yeah.
I've never done it.
Feels good again.
Well, thank God.
Cass has thrown glasses against the wall. She's torn down.
I haven't done that in like 7 years. It was a dramatic day.
Yeah, I mean, you've thrown everything there can be thrown.
I try to make minimal damage while making maximum impact.
Yeah. I punched a lot of walls.
Damn, well, that scares me, considering we need your hands for guitar playing and tattooing.
Yeah, my knuckles are just like perma blue. They're so cute.
Oh my God. Damn. Well, this was fucking crazy. If you're down to do a little more, we can get a little bit more personal and funny.
Is it possible?
Yeah, we'll do an afterglow show. That I think it would be really funny because we have just some funny, more personal stories that we don't want to represent us till the end of time on YouTube, but on the Patreon, who gives a fuck? You know.
Yeah.
Patreon.com/Church of Chill. Join us for the rest of this conversation. It's gonna get a little more sexy. Thanks for joining us.
Oh, Mowgli, sing with us.
Mowgli gonna do it?
No, he's sleeping.
This fucker. He was camera shy this episode. Peace, love, and magic.